Welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Season 2. In 30 minutes or less each and every week, we break down the mindset and the strategies for you to build and grow your practice in 2021. Season 2, we're talking all about product sales and e-commerce. This episode is one you don't want to fast forward through because we're talking specifically about a financial freedom formula. We're gonna talk about what that is, and we're gonna talk about the action steps that you can start taking to get there. If you have not subscribed to this podcast yet, please do so. And you can check out the video on YouTube and subscribe there. Jason, we are talking financial freedom. We're talking MVMI. And let's start right there. What is MVMI and where do we begin?
Well, let's start with what MVMI solves for. MV, all right, MVMI. And we'll tell you what that means in just a moment. But what it solves for is Patrick Gentempo used to call it the silent dread, that unspoken emotion and feeling he was referring to years ago about that insecurity about knowing that you know that your recommendations are based on rational, sound evidence. What I'm referring to is the new silent dread. That one may still exist for some of you, but the one that I find to be the other pandemic is chiropractors who consistently, month after month after month, are addicted to needing new patients. Now, that's not, I would like to serve more people. That's not, I want to add an extra day to my schedule because I'm already at capacity and more people are suffering. That is, I'm financially struggling because people are coming in and they're not converting and they're not sticking around and they're not referring. And so I'm financially stressed, and the repercussions of my financial stress on my spouse, my family, my kids, my dependents is causing not positive things to happen. Let's just keep it for what it is and whatever level that is. There is a stress level to not having consistent income. And as a chiropractor, unless you're getting a paycheck, you don't necessarily have consistent recurring income. And so what we wanted to do, or what we're doing, is we've looked at the different models and different businesses in different industries that actually are the most valuable businesses in the world these days. And those businesses that are at the highest value are oftentimes subscription-based businesses, or what they call SaaS businesses, meaning software as a service. All different technical ways of saying monthly recurring revenue, predictable monthly recurring revenue. So I guess that's sort of the question. Before we dig into the what it is, let's talk and explore about why this is so important. And I guess the question would be, what would it be like if every first day of the month, which currently for most chiropractors is, it's the first of the month again, even if you just broke a record financially last month, the first of the month represents not even $1, but $0, all right? Most practices start from zero on the first day of the month. And what we're proposing, what we're offering, is a way of thinking so that the first day of the month actually equates to payday. Payday meaning that you use this formula to generate enough monthly recurring revenue so that on the first day of every month, instead of going to zero, you can actually cover all of your monthly recurring expenses in that one day. Let me repeat that just so it's clear. Imagine that the first day of every month wasn't oh shit day, it was payday. And payday was you processing enough credit card payments on the first of every month, perhaps even before you even enter the office, automatically processing credit cards so that you have earned enough recurring monthly revenue to cover your recurring monthly expenses. However you define that, your office rent, your staff payroll, your insurances, perhaps your savings or retirement, perhaps your home mortgage, perhaps your car expenses. However you define your monthly recurring expenses, that's the MVMI formula. So let's get into what that is. MVMI is minimum viable monthly income. The question for you is, what's the least amount of money you absolutely must make in order to not feel financially stressed? This is the exact opposite question just about every entrepreneurial coach has ever asked you, because that's usually, how much would you like to make? That's a different question. What's your goal? What's your stretch? What's your reach? What's your dream amount? Is a totally different question than what's the absolute least you must make to not feel stressed out. I didn't say to make you happy. I said to not feel stressed out. When you come up with what that number is, that is your MVMI, minimum viable monthly income. And what we're teaching, what we're recommending, is to follow us through this process through monthly memberships in your practice. And what we're actually teaching on this month's, series of podcasts is e-commerce, how to have hassle-free e-commerce, meaning how to generate additional revenue automatically with the people you're already serving, offering your favorite versions of the things they're already buying. They're already buying these products from other companies like Amazon and Target and Costco and you name it, but they're typically not paying you, and they're typically buying a lesser quality product than they should be getting from you. So between what we'll teach in the future in terms of monthly memberships and being able to have an online store that better serves your people, the goal for this episode, the conversation is, what would it take for you to generate at least the minimum monthly revenue you absolutely must make to not feel stressed out each and every month on the first day of every month? And imagine for a moment that you're able to walk in the first day of every month, and know your expenses are handled. Just feel for a moment the difference in being able to go to your practice that day and the 2nd through the 30th or 31st of every month, except February, right? Knowing that my expenses are covered. I don't have to worry about if I'm meeting payroll this week. I don't have to worry about if there's more month than there is money, whether it's your mortgage, whether it's your rent, or all of the financial requirements you have each and every month, even if that's college education for kids, wedding funds for kids, vacation funds, retirement funds. You've got a number that you may not have calculated yet, but that if you sat down and figured out how much do I have to make to not feel stressed each and every month, we will help you then figure out how to build membership programs and how to sell products and bundles so that you can actually earn that revenue on the first day of every month, so the rest of the month is relatively considered profit. We know there's additional expenses and so on, but most of what you're generating above and beyond isn't to cover your nut or your monthly requirements. It can be spent on other things. That's the formula. That's how it works. There's a variety of ways to slice and dice the details of how do I do that, and what kind of membership programs, and what kind of products, and a store. What do you mean store? All of those details we'll answer in more detail in the future. But for today's conversation in this podcast episode, what you want to learn is the MVMI formula. And I'll just sort of break it down at its most basic element. And we can get more creative and build different things on that. Let's just say, for the sake of example, to complete the thought and the concept, that your MVMI, your minimum viable monthly income, is, let's just say, $15,000 a month. Now, if you're in New York City, it's probably a lot more. But if you're in most of, Main Street America, Maintown America, that may be enough to cover your minimum requirements. I'm not saying what you want to make, but it's your minimum requirements. And if it's more, do the calculation based on more. I'm picking 15,000. And let's hypothetically say for a moment that your per visit office fee is $50. So what we're saying is, or what we're asking is, what would it take to get 300 people to say, go ahead on the first of every month and charge my credit card $50 on the first of every month for my monthly visit, for my at least once a month visit at your regular fee of $50, whatever your number is. Again, you make up your monthly expense, you make up your per visit, we're doing an example. $15,000 is 300 people paying you $50 every month. So what would it take to encourage and invite people to be part of a very limited program that those people that are part of your membership, we'll give you titles and ideas and all kinds of creative ways to implement this in the future, but for the math for today, what would it take? How long would it take you to get 300 people to go, yep, put that on my card, you charge me the first day of every month, and if I want or you think I need more visits than my one per month, you're going to give me a membership price for any additional visits I require above and beyond that. You'll give me a membership price if you have an online store for any products I need above and beyond my traditional or basic minimum product I'm paying you for. That's the goal, is solving for your minimum financial needs each and every month automatically without having to do yet another sale. And there's a psychology to urgency and scarcity. We are not suggesting that you have 700 people join when you only need 300 people to join. There's a psychology to all of this. There's capacity issues, there's urgency and scarcity issues. We'll go through all of that in more detail if you're interested and you decide to follow us. But for today, our recommendation and advice is to solve for your minimum viable monthly income. Start by calculating what's the least amount I need to earn every month in order to not feel stressed. Figure out your your per visit cost or fee for whatever an office visit costs. I know you may believe that people need to come in more than once a month and you're leaving the door open for that to happen, but you are starting with the most basic of levels. Yes, I hear your wheels spinning. If you want to make it 2 visits a month and make that your membership, make that a premium membership. What I'm suggesting is the lowest barrier to entry is a monthly visit. This would not qualify, just to answer some of the yeah buts and how comes and what ifs. This is for people who want ongoing care above and beyond crisis care. So if it's we'll call traditional client who comes in from an accident or an injury and they clearly need multiple visits per week for several weeks, they would not qualify for this membership program. This is for a specific set of people that either have gone through that and want to keep on coming, or this is for the 99% of the people in your community right now, not in pain, not going to their search engine going, chiropractor near me. But if they actually knew what you did and actually knew the price of being able to come in once a month, right? The question for people is, do you think coming to my office at least once a month for a tune-in and tune-up visit at least once per month would benefit your health? And if somebody says, yes, it would, they're the perfect candidate for this type of program. So whether they've gone through your crisis care or whether they've never been to your practice but don't have any crisis and want the experience to at least start something at some level as a very basic, you will be doing yourself and your family and your community a favor when you stop feeling monthly financial stress. It is a whole different way of being. Those of you that know what it feels like to not have financial stress know the difference between feeling stressed and feeling at least financially covered. I'm not saying feeling rich, I'm saying feeling covered. There is a freedom in that that will change the way you practice, change the way you communicate with your community and your family and your spouse, and will ultimately change your feelings about yourself. The dread in our profession, I think right now, is that constant frustration of, if I'm not working, I'm not earning. If I'm not earning, I better get back to working. And the stress and the struggle of trying to figure out how much is enough. Do I take another weekend away from my kids, away from my spouse, away from my hobbies, away from self-recovery and joy to work yet even harder because I need to? Not because I want to, but because I need to. And if you're in that bucket, then I invite you to check out the Mvmi Formula. Follow our podcast, listen to where we're going, because this is your financial, I'll say, buoy to keep you afloat in good times and bad.
It ties into the subscription and recurring products as well, because it's just a different way to think about the topic that you're discussing. So there's the membership option, whether it's for care delivered in the form of an adjustment, whether it's for a movement assessment or a rehab visit, whether it is exercise in your practice, whatever it might be. There's a variety of ways you can implement that. The other way to look at it is through last episode we went deep into subscription and recurring products. For instance, supplements. So imagine that $50 that we utilize times 300 to equal 15,000. $50 could be that 300 people decided to buy their monthly green, their multivitamin, and maybe a CoQ10 from you, and you could get there that way. That's drop shipped, auto shipped to them, and you're right there. Now, of course, now we start thinking, wow, she put those two together. Now you can look at that two ways, where you need less than half of that amount on each side of the equation, because this ultimately just comes down to math. And with the 300 person at $50 equaling that 15,000, you can think about it and say, okay, if I have 1,200, 1,300 patients that I've seen in my practice, do I think 25% of them would be interested in continuing and deepening their relationship, whether that's through the products or the services I offer?
That they're already buying somewhere anyway.
Correct. That's correct. And overwhelming majority are already going to be there. Now, if you're a doc and you're saying, gosh, I have 2,500 patient records, I have 5,000 past patients, now the odds just become dramatically in your favor that there's really no reason why you shouldn't be able to reach it. So the most important thing is to get started today, because 1 is more than 0. And again, these things they're compounding.
Momentum matters.
As money has velocity, right? And ultimately revenue into your practice has velocity as well. And building up that muscle, so to speak. And that doesn't mean that you're aggressively selling any products or services, and meaning that you're teaching and inviting consistently, that you're teaching that it's something that is offered, and then you're inviting them to take that step if and when they're ready to do so. And if you can implement that with a strategy, as we go through the Smart Chiropractor monthly campaigns, weekly topics, daily posts, and Friday favorites, as we'll talk about the marketing steps in some of our next episodes here, it helps you reach that MVMI that much quicker. Because it streamlines your processes, and now you have systems and processes. Because getting there sounds nice, doing it's another thing, right? So that's why we break down the numbers to say, what's your number? And then you can just reverse engineer to say, okay, well, what do I need to do to be able to make positive momentum and to track there with the goal of eventually getting there? The goal of getting there is not necessarily day one. It's going to take some time. But we always say results follow actions. The actions that you take today by teaching and inviting, the actions that you take today by offering the availability for somebody even to purchase the service or the product, you have to have that infrastructure in place. That's where a Smart Care store can help so much, is because the first step is to get the infrastructure. The next step is to identify your goals. In this case, we're breaking down that financial freedom formula of MVMI. And then the third step is to, as we'll talk about, take those steps to facilitate the transaction. Right. So make it easy for people to say yes by doing the right thing, and by doing the right thing consistently and focusing on them. What's the benefit that they're going to receive? And I'm going to say that's even more, no pun intended, acute outside of crisis care. Because when you're talking about the benefits that somebody's going to receive outside of a crisis intervention, you better be crystal clear on it. And the clearer that you are, and there are very real benefits, but the most important thing is to be clear on those benefits and to communicate those benefits in a consistent way that teaches first and invites second.
And it's interesting, number one, for our current Smart Chiropractor clients, those of you who are already clients, this is much easier because you already have the communication infrastructure set up to teach and invite consistently. So this fits into the model we've already launched and that our members are following. But what it also does is it helps you figure out, how do I answer the question, can I earn money without having to be bending over a table? And you want to be asking that question these days especially. Wherever you are in the world, we're all vulnerable to the next stay-at-home order or to some closure of some kind, and it's never been more valuable. I'm not trying to spread fear, I'm trying to spread some intelligence. You have to anticipate COVID-20, COVID-21, COVID-22, and what insane, impossible things. This is impossible. If you would have told us this would have happened a year ago, you'd have gone, you're a fearmonger. You're out of your mind. Impossible. I'll bet everything on it. But we're living in impossible, crazy times. So it's not so ridiculous to think about, what's my life preserver? What's my, safety net in the event that things go bad for a period of time? If I physically can't see people, adjust people, how can I generate revenue? Telehealth has been part of that, but that's still part of providing a service. That's not an adjustment. Adding the store component, adding this teach and invite consistently philosophy, and just starting the membership concept. There are those of us that pay monthly memberships just for information, with no adjustment, no physical product or physical service, but access to information that we value. And I think for smart chiropractors especially, pun intended, that it is time for chiropractors to monetize, as in offer more than just their physical services, because we know stuff. And we know stuff differently than everybody else knows stuff, and that's our unique value. Yes, this is our value, but this, in my opinion, is secondary to this. If all we do is provide a physical aspirin, right, an adjustment, the same consciousness as I'll just take the drug and it will go away, but I'll continue to do all the stupid stuff that caused those headaches to begin with, yes, we're providing relief. I'm not sure we're providing lasting results and lasting value. That's a decision for you to make as a chiropractor. I'm not going to have that debate with you. But what I will challenge you to figure out for yourself, one way or the other, with us or with anyone else, is how do you make sure that if you, for whatever reason, at some point in the future, can't physically get your hands on people, what do you have in place to at least be able to generate enough recurring revenue to cover your recurring monthly expenses? We're not trying to change the profession. We get that the value is the adjustment, but we also get that the value is the major premise. We also get that the value is understanding our connection to nature and the power of the universe inside of us. We also understand it's knowing the brain-body connection and what happens when there's interference in that connection. Those ideas are valuable, and I would argue and debate that knowing that information may be more valuable than getting an information getting an adjustment without the information to know what it means and why it's different. You get a high for a moment, but if you don't change and adjust their consciousness, they just go right back to what it was. Thanks, doc. That felt awesome. When can you crack me again? So that's, I think, the opportunity, is smart chiropractors monetizing their smarts and being smart, sharing their smarts, and really providing, again, this type of system. The Mvmi Formula is just the structure. Everything else is customizable, personalizable to you and your practice. And for those of you that are part of either our client of the Smart Chiropractor or are beneficial to be have the benefit of being in our private group, these are some of the conversations we'll be having privately in the group. We invite you to continue to learn more and have the conversation in our private group. And those of you in our private group already, keep asking those questions and we'll keep on rocking with those ideas as well.
Be sure to join the group, and if you'd like to learn more, check out thesmartchiropractor.com. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast where we deliver weekly episodes breaking down concept, strategies, and mindset that can help you build and grow in 2021 and beyond. For Dr. Jason Deitch, I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid. We'll see you in the next episode.
This episode brought to you by The Smart Chiropractor. At The Smart Chiropractor, we solve the two biggest chiropractic marketing challenges, content and consistency. We combine an incredible content library with powerful automation tools to supercharge your marketing. The result? More new patients, more referrals, and more reactivations with automated digital content marketing.
Here's what Dr. Mike Marino had to say. The Smart Chiropractor's content, auto posting, and other tools is simply the best ROI I have seen in 20 years of practice.
To learn more and get started, visit thesmartchiropractor.com today.